Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to the Coffee, Health, and Science Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. Before we get started, I urge you to share the Coffee, Health, and Science Podcast. Share the show with a coffee lover. Make sure you're subscribed. Give us a good rating and review. It really helps us grow on a grassroots level. Taking a hit of my Purity coffee right here, getting revved up, getting excited for part 2, a follow-up episode about achieving true wellness. Today we have Dr. Coffee back on the line. How you doing, my friend?
Well, it's another day above ground living the dream.
Absolutely. I'm caffeinated. We're going dark roast today. We're going full caffeine. Revved up for today's episode. We're talking about wellness. Today's episode is focusing on 2 huge contributing lifestyle factors, diet and exercise. Man, it is such a huge part of physical just wellness overall. And I'm excited to focus on that today with a little bit of coffee tied in. So let's dive into the exploration, Dr. Coffee?
I'd love to. This is going to be a good session. I love this topic.
Absolutely.
So I want to start off by having everybody realize that when we talk about lifestyle changes, what we're really talking about is making an improvement in your health no matter where you're at. So you're in good health, you're not in good health, you have thyroid condition, you're overweight, you're too skinny. Well, can you ever be too skinny? My wife would say no. But diet and exercise are things that you can bring to the table that improve wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people fall into the trap of I'm too unhealthy to be fixed through lifestyle changes. You know what I mean? So that's an important distinction you said.
Yes. So we're not trying to fix. We're trying to improve.
Love it.
And I will start off with one of my favorite quotes, a Dr. Coffee quote. The quality and quantity of the water you drink are 2 of the most fundamental preventive medicine techniques you can practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when we start with diet, we're going to start with the water quality. You can live a month without food, a week without water, and 3 minutes without air. So water is right there in those 3 pieces, part of the mix for improving your health. Mm-hmm. So you have to have good quality water. And when we talk about good quality water, we're talking about the fact that there are 3 sources for water. One source is you get it from the tap. Mm-hmm. The second source is you get it from a bottle. Mm-hmm. And the third source is you filter it.
Right.
So tap water is not something I would recommend that most of us use.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Lots of chemicals there, lots of processing. And when you're trying to make water for the masses, you don't always do a great job.
Right.
Now, I know there's going to be people that take exception to that, but if you can take even tap water and filter it properly, you're a step ahead.
100%.
Bottled water is a big problem. Mm-hmm. And here's why it's a big problem. You're either polluting the earth with plastic bottles, and if you don't believe me, go online, Google bottle pollution, and look at all the seas and oceans and lakes and everything that's just filled up with plastic bottles. So we have a problem with plastic bottles. The other problem is that plastic has BPA and other
contaminants.
Pizza particulate, contaminants.
BPA is a bad one.
Yeah. So, we're just screwing up our health.
100%.
Because of all these contaminants. So I'd like to see people get away from bottled water.
I just want to jump in for a second and point out a website that you have brought up before when we were talking about pesticides, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group. EWG.org is where you can find them. They have a tap water database too. and their tap water database shows how many contaminants are in your local area and how many are above the health guidelines. It is frightening, the number of compounds and the types of compound. I'm talking about uranium and radon and chloroform. And the website's really cool, though, because if you scroll down, I know you're about to talk about filtration. They tell you which types of filters knock out which ones. And Dr. Steve, I was literally going through all the different towns I'd lived in and my relatives, and it was frightening. They're all different. Most of them are poison. And you need like a reverse osmosis filter to get rid of most of these things.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we are going to talk about filtering. Mm-hmm. But first, let's talk about how much water you need.
Sure.
So adult men need 3 liters a day, which is about 12.5 cups or about 100 ounces. Mm-hmm. Adult women need 2.2 liters a day, which is about 9 cups or 75 ounces.
Okay.
That will re-support the body's need for fluids. We are made up of mostly water.
Right.
Somebody should really sometime take a look at what organs of the body have how much water. We're about 60 to 70% of our body weight is water.
Right. Yes, and if you're just drinking
most people
soda,
don't realize that.
What happens if you're just drinking soda? Does that replace with like with syrup?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because you have to filter that. So the kidneys and the liver, all the organs have to filter it.
Right.
So, and guess what you need to filter? You need water. So when you have a Coca-Cola, your body has to break it down and get rid of whatever toxins are there for the body.
Right. And
they need water to do that. So things like sodas, etc., high sugar things don't replace water, don't help with dehydration.
Exactly. Yikes. Right. So you need a lot of it, and it has to be high quality. 2.2 liters, 3 liters. That's an interesting measurement. If you think about now we're talking plastic bottles again, but if you think about like a 2-liter bottle, you need to be drinking that and then some. It's a lot of water.
It is. And you should spread it out throughout the day.
Right.
First thing you do in the morning after you visit the restroom that's when you're the most toxic. So you drink a 8-ounce glass of water. I recommend that you add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to that, or some green tea to that. And then you drink that down, and then you go make your coffee. You do your morning ritual, your meditative ritual, and you drink your purity coffee. I have a book that we've put together called My Healthy Patient Specialty Diets, My Specialty Diets. And any of your listeners that would like me to email a copy of them, the My Healthy Specialty Diet, just drop me a line and I'll be glad to send it off to you.
doc@level1diagnostics.com. That's level1diagnostics.com. That's a great resource too. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's great. We go over the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, the flexitarian diet, Weight Watchers, which is now called WW, Mayo Clinic diet, the MIND diet, and the ketogenic diet. What else do we go over? Paleo, intermittent fasting, which we're going to talk about today. And then the last thing we talk about is choosing which diet will work best for you. So there isn't any one size fits all.
Right.
When it comes to diet and exercise.
Yeah.
When it comes to diet, there's not one size fits all, but I can tell you this. Unless you have a significant blood sugar problem where you cannot fast, we know that caloric restriction helps the body reset itself. Mm-hmm. There are a number of different things when it comes to caloric restriction. One of them is called intermittent fasting. The other is called OMD, one meal a day.
Mm-hmm.
program. And the science behind these things have really turned our thought process about diet on its head. Because I remember growing up, and my mom always used to say, you have to eat 3 meals a day, and
Right.
breakfast is the most important meal. And, you've heard the same things too,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Eat breakfast like a pauper, lunch like a prince, dinner like a king. There's a million different flip-flop versions, but they all revolve around you eating like very frequently and throughout the day. But you're telling me that there's real studies on things like intermittent fasting now. Doing what? I know it does things like reduce inflammation, reduce and reverse disease, obviously help control weight. What other studies are out there?
Well, they're taking a look at things like antioxidant levels. They're taking a look at telomere length.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
So this whole thing of aging,
Right.
we really believe that by doing intermittent fasting, you can slow down aging.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the senescent cells in the body wind up as having a lot of dead cells that have to be cleaned up. And the way you do it is by intermittent fasting.
It makes a lot of sense to me. And that's really what you were referring to is it's the timing of the meals. Like you are what you eat, right? That is the old saying, but it's also you kind of are when you eat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I believe it's not you are what you eat. I believe it's you are what you digest.
You've said that before. I love that.
Yeah, so I think when you get up in the morning and you drink your glass of water with some apple cider vinegar or green tea in it, and then you go into your meditation mode by grinding and brewing and smelling the aroma of your good morning cup of coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and then you drink down your coffee, you've now flushed the system. You've now put a bunch of antioxidants in the system, and you've done it without any calories. And if you then continue your overnight fast until the afternoon, drinking plenty of water, drinking some coffee, but not taking in any calories, then when 2, 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock comes, you eat a really well-balanced meal of protein, carbohydrate, and good quality fat. If you want to stay into the ketosis or the paleo realm, you can. If you don't want to do that and you just want to stay in the low-carb realm, you can. You have lots of choices, but you've done a wonderful job of cleaning out your system.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing your body's cells to get rid of the broken down cells that shouldn't be there, and you're on the way to healing.
That's exactly right.
If during that time during the day you make sure and get some exercise in, then you've achieved. You should get a gold star.
That is the gold star for health, true wellness.
That's right.
There's no replacement for this out there. This type of lifestyle change.
So when you talk about the exercise program, there are two types of exercise. Everybody says there's 3. There's 2 types. One type is for fun, and one type is for muscle building.
Uh-huh.
So muscles are very efficient. When you have muscle, you work better as a human being, as a body. Your joints are healthier. You're burning fat better because muscles are more efficient. So you have to build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, weightlifting is great, but there's a problem to it. And the problem is that when you lift a weight, you're maxed out to the weakest point that you have in that weight lift.
Sure. It's an unnatural movement.
So,
it's not a full body movement. It's a targeted movement, and therefore it is kind of limited. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that. I'm also saying that if I were going to do a bicep curl, then the most weight I can use is the least strength I have in that bicep.
Right.
So that's why we recommend doing some kind of progressive resistance exercise.
Right.
So on the days you're doing muscle building, you should be doing progressive resistance exercise.
Mm-hmm.
There are different ways to do progressive resistance. One of them is to use chains. Another is to use bands.
Yep.
There's a gentleman named Sam Colby who's invented a machine called the core pump.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
COREPUMP, which uses a cylinder, and it's a very small footprint machine. So have your readers Google core pump and take a look at it. It's a very small footprint machine. It uses a cylinder so that through the whole range of motion, you're pulling and pushing against the cylinder,
Wow.
which changes its strength throughout the range of motion. So that's what I mean by progressive resistance.
Very interesting. I remember you showing me that particular exercise, but okay, I totally see what you mean now. And you're right. It's I want you to go into the kind of exercise for fun part, because that is more of a primal blueprint. In fact, there was a guest who was talking about kind of primal strength, lifting heavy things, wrestling, these types of things. It's not a set weight. It's all types of different resistance and pushback force. But yeah, I'm excited for you to talk about the kind of exercising for play.
Yeah, so people that are hot on things like paleo diet, let's say, what they sometimes forget to talk about is that we are not built to just sit in chairs all day long.
Right.
And both from a psychological and a physiological point of view,
yes,
we're not built for just sitting in chairs.
We were supposed to get up the trees for all those avocados. Like all those avocados that you're eating on the paleo diet, you're supposed to climb a tree for those.
Exactly. So you need to take time every day to do something fun and physical.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day, fun and physical. I don't care if it's walking. I don't care if it's wrestling. I don't care if it's horseback riding. You have to get out and do physical things in the world.
I love it.
And most people don't. Most people are sedentary, and that's a big, big mistake. Sedentary lifestyle is the new smoking.
Right. There's studies that literally link it to the same similar levels of things like early mortality and lung disease and all this stuff, right?
Yep, exactly. We are meant to move. And when we move, we exercise our lungs, we exercise our heart, we exercise all our joints. We get lactic acid out of our system. We can't do all that sitting in a chair.
100%. I think that we've kind of, as society has progressed and we've built up all of these securities around us, we've also disrupted the natural process a little bit. And now we need to make some effort to restore those physical balances because they are affecting our health. And as everyone who knows, who's listening to this podcast, your personal health is just about the most important thing in your life. If you don't get that sorted out, you really can't move on to much more. So I love this message, Dr. Stephen. You're absolutely right.
Great. We never really talked about filtration of water.
I noticed that too. I was going to bring it back around, but if you want to touch on that now, I kind of spoiled it for you, which is I know reverse osmosis is probably the most intense form of filtration, but there are other types. I don't know if you want to go into your favorite ones.
So what I'd like to do is, since we didn't get to it, I also have a book, My Healthy Water. We've started a company called My Healthy Patient. And it's an educational company designed to help doctors educate their patients on lifestyle changes. And we have a book called My Healthy Water. And since we really didn't go into it, I would also like to offer listeners
I love it.
a copy of My Healthy Water. All they have to do is send me an email, and I'll send them both the My Healthy Specialty Diets and My Healthy Water.
Absolutely.
They can read on it.
It's just extra resources for you guys, and that's because we're working with Dr. Coffee on this other project, and that's very generous of him. So if you guys want to take advantage of that, email doc, at Level 1 Diagnostics. That's the numeral 1, level1diagnostics.com. Thank you, Dr. Steve, for offering those resources up. You really didn't have to do that, and we appreciate it. Super cool.
Well, I love your podcast listeners, and
we love you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners and subscribers. Stay subscribed. We'll be back shortly every single Saturday. You can expect us. This is Dr. Coffee and Jordan River signing off, saying have an extraordinary day. We'll see you next time on the Coffee, Health, and Science Podcast.